Welcome for this opening morning session. We have one of the original presenters wasn't able to make it, so we have only 3 presentations in this session. That gives us a bit more flexibility, so I'll also be a bit flexible on time. And then we see how it goes, how we may have to stop and I see how that goes. But we start with a study on Madagascar and land markets there by your name, which is a bit tough, but yes. Good job. Not too bad. So the word is yours. Just go ahead.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here to join this great panel with the great people. So my name is Irnena Malala. Good job on that. Pronounced very well. So my communication today is a part of my PhD dissertation. So I'm now as land use specialist of the FAO, but this communication is not related to my current job, but for my PhD that I defended 2 years ago. Okay. Just to start, I want to talk about the migration in Madagascar. Madagascar is a country with a very long story of migration. Migration driven by economic, but also by natural disaster like drought or floods. At the same time, the decrease in our farm size when population density is high, we are observing the decrease in our farm size. So it also contributes to drive population to move from rural to another rural area where there is more job and arable land opportunities. So migration, domestic migration in Madagascar is mainly from rural to other rural area. In this case, migrant land access is development issue because access to land is very important for household who depend on agriculture for their income and so for their food security. Unfortunately, it's difficult, I can say impossible sometimes for migrants to inherit in the receiving area. So they must rely on land markets to access land. Unfortunately, there's very few research link migration and land access on Madagascar. So the question is, what can be the role of land markets for migrants to access land in rural area of Western Madagascar? In this research, it was possible this qualified as a migrant if was not born in the study area. And land market, we talk about land sales market, but also land rental market. That's different way to talk about land market. But land market was 2 major issues on development. The first is efficiency. Does land collect toward more efficient production? And equity. Do the land reconfiguration induced by land markets help to reduce already inequalities on land relocation? Today I will focus on equity of land markets in Madagascar. So I will talk about exclusion and land relocation on the demand side, looking at both native and migrants. My paper is based on mixed method methodology, so research. So I collected first-hand empirical data from rural communities in Western Madagascar from 2018 to 2021. So qualitative research, I've done more than 100 interview, focus group, and observation. And also a household survey involved more than 300 households, which is 10% of the total household in the municipality. So all the data, I use it for descriptive statistics and economic model that we'll see later. The background about my study area, the name of the community is Ambatula. It's on the western part of Madagascar. Ambatula, a very long story of domestic migration So I can say that the majority of people in here are migrants, more than 60%. The migrants are from different ways of migration. So 23% settled there before 1988, 27% between just before 2000, and and the half of the migrants, so 50%, from 2007 to 2018. That's not the year of my survey. The majority of people who live there, native as well as migrants, are involved in agricultural activity. Though this is a big picture of my research area, and why access to land is very important. Why we can see just in the first picture, the landscape, and it's coming, and so the people, the job for on the rice field of women, and the southern picture of the bus and the rice. We have here rice field picture. So land access is very important. On this first result, we can see migrant household can access land ownership. That's not always the case in many African countries, but also in Madagascar context. So that is the first point that's very important. Migrants can access land. However, fewer land owners also among migrants than among natives. So very different perspective from the two categories. So purchase market is very important for migrant land access, because first, it's very difficult. Even there's a few households who get irritated. It's very difficult for migrants to inherit in the receiving area. Unfortunately, even they rely on land sales markets to get ownership, to be land owner. Only 1 of 3 migrants also purchase at least one part. So that's very different if you compare it to the native groups. But migrants are more active on land rental than native. So the tenancy market is an alternative means for accessing land for landers also, but it's more important for migrant group. And the tenancy market, you can see here that they increase the area farmed by migrants in relation compared to the area owned. So I want to understand why it's like this. Why this is the picture. So I try to understand this for economic model in the profit. So I run four models for the first part for land sales market, the second part for land rental market, and sell them. So studying the households who purchase land from 2013 to 2018. And for the migrant household, for the native household, and the same for the two markets. So I use information from the my household survey. So I use the profile of height of household, the household wealth indicator, household land endowment, there's some migration feature. But before that, I compare the characteristic of household. So the household purchase land between the two is there. So we can see that the purchase market it's more for rich household, and for native household who do not inherit it. So that's very important. And for the migrants, it's the migrants settled between these years are the more active to purchase land. If we talk about the renting lands and the year of the survey, it seems it's more inclusive for young, poor, one-less, and for last wife for migrants. So the qualitative investigation give us a lot of information about all this data information. Land market is very active on this study area, but it's very embedded in family and neighbor network. One of the phrase when I did my investigation is family first. So if I have opportunity to sell land, I contact my family first. If they're not, if they can't buy land, don't have money or don't need to buy land, then I move to my neighbor or to my friends, my very close friends. It's not like buying yogurt in a shop. There's a lot of discussion. So that's barrier to entry to the land market, either migrant more than native, because native will have a lot of the kinship of native is very important. There are a lot of family, so the native also can access easily to information, to opportunity about that side market. That's not the case for migrants. Migrants have to build up a strong network and then the access to the opportunities. The barrier was pronounced for the purchase and rental acquisition. Why? When you rent land, you will use this parcel only for 1 or more or 2 years. That is the configuration of land market in this part of Madagascar. But when you buy land, you will stay there for many, many years, maybe 20 years. So the community, they don't trust you the first time. They make a lot of investigation. They observe you every day. How this guy behave? Is it a good neighbor or not? Is it a cool guy or not? If you make trouble to everybody just to manage the water, to irrigate the parcel, nobody will sell you the land. Even you have $1 billion. If you have $1 billion, they will not sell you the parcel because you will generate conflict on the neighbor. So that's why when you are a new migrant, everybody don't know you. Who is this guy? Where is he come from? His family. Maybe you will kill our cattle, something like that. So that's why it's very difficult to balance economic barrier. Of course, renting land is more affordable than purchase. To rent 1 hectare is more affordable for people, but there is no discount because in Madagascar the majority of land market is linked to distress. So when there is stress, people sell land and they need to go to hospital, or the police put a brother, sister, child on jail. That's the case in my study area. So they sell land. So there is no discount. Even the family. So the economic barrier is the same for the migrant and for the native. So to overcome the barrier, the workers agree to a dialogue where it's very important because they get access to information and access to land owner. When you work with to people, you can see the parcel. This is the first information. Is that a good one or a bad one? How about the produce of the yield of the rice on this field? Is that good or not? First information. Second information. The land owner, is it a good guy or a bad guy? If I make contract to deal with him, will he respect it or not? So that's the first step. And then at the same time, the migrant but also the young native build up a social capital. They can prove to other people that they are the good worker. We can discuss with him. It's easygoing and he's a coming guy. So it's important. That's why the land market is very embedded to the logical network. Then after that, they have opportunity to rent land. So they have money from the job and also the information about the land owner. And the trust and access to more opportunities is the migrants need at least 5 years to build up the trust of the land owner. That it's very long. If you leave your village in order to find arable land, just think about you need 5 more years to get access to be a landowner. That's very long in the journey of rural people. Then after 5 or 7 years, then you can purchase that. So it's very tough. So the economic results. So data from the also survey. And this result rules out the what is of the existence of exclusion mechanism affecting migrants in particular. It confirmed that economic poverty appears to be a factor of exclusion for access to land for purchase. And for native, the purchase market compensates inheritance inequalities. And the migrants said before, this is the story of the migrants who arrive, who are settled there for my 20 years. They have a social capital. They can buy a lot of land, but there's enough land, so they want to buy more land. For the migrant who just arrived on the area, maybe last year or the last 5 years, even they have money, they don't have the social capital to buy. That's why the result is like this. For the land rental market, also it's not a determining factor in Tennessee market because it's affordable. It's also the way the native also use the migrant as workforce. So that's opportunity to them, and then access to rental market is more easier. Those like that are often less involved in farming because there's a lot of cattle. So the cattle they provide income for the natives, so they're less involved in farming and agriculture. Binland is also positively and significantly correlated with Tennessee market data. And Tennessee market is very inclusive for migrants. Why I'm talking about land markets and why I spent 5 years of my life on field study, just alone, far from the family, to do a PhD. It's always a big question for us to be a PhD student. Because I'm not just the land tenure specialist. I'm also, I can say, an activist on land issue. I belong to a group, a think tank, and my PhD supervisor is here, Payne Bruno is also at core of this communication, but also another. I'm very active to support the land policy of my country. So it's very important to take equity issue. This study generated a lot of relation and reflection to the land policy now in Madagascar. Madagascar land reformers spent a very, very little personal attention to the functioning of land market. There's nothing about land market on our land policy. Nothing. Our land policy is based on certificate land projects, so they secure land rights, but nothing about land access and nothing about land market. So the study, the recommendation is to pay particular attention for the category of poor, like currently women, migrants, with a lot of barrier to access land through the land market. So access land for vulnerable group could therefore be promoted by development of Tennessee market in some area, but also on the market. So there's some parts which do not accept to rent out land. So that's also a big issue, and we can see here the real contribution of land rental market for the migrant. So thank you so much, and I'm here for question for the communication.
For an interesting presentation. I think we'll make 2 rounds. So we collect a few questions or comments first. So we want to start.
Yeah. Yes.
So I guess my question is to focus more on the purchase and rent in. So also there's other side of market, sale and lease out. And you mentioned there is some, if you have to stay there for a certain amount of years, then these are official regulation or just all this informal. And so if there's no regulation, if I'm a seller, I want, also you mentioned that most of the sales is just sale, okay? So if just regular sale, if someone come to the community and have a lot of money, and maybe you don't focus a lot of hidden information about that person, but if you are thinking more about money part, you're not thinking about moral side for the community, I'm probably just waiting to sell to whatever company. So I want to know a little background. Was there any government documents or local policies or something?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Just one quick clarification. Just now mentioned that in terms of purchasing land compared to the rental, there are quite different things. So my more hunch is that to what extent this rental compared to the purchase is different. In particular, in terms of rental, like, I mean, can you rent like 30 years, 40 years or something? It's still like purchase, right? So I'm more interested in to say, I mean, is there any particular document or official type of regulation related to distinguish between the two?
Okay. Thank you for the question. So you were talking about how they secure the land transaction. That's the first question, and it's also the first part of my PhD dissertation. So I can talk more about that. Okay, so all the transaction so we talk about the purchase market. Then I will move to rental market. The main contract. So it's between if I sell my land, so you are the buyer, okay? We will go to the local authorities. We'll write just a paper. You will sign it. I will sign it. And that's the majority part of the land transaction in Madagascar. I mean, if you talk about the land purchase, it's just all the deal is written on paper. So they write down the information about the seller and the buyer. The small information about the plot. So the neighbor of this plot is this person, is older there, novel people here. And also they put information about the ID of the people. So the ID information, they send it. We take it to the local authority. They stop, and it's because the majority of the plot there is no title or land certificate. Only less than 10% of the parcel in this area are title or land certificate. So they don't need to do more than just a piece of paper. This is for purchase market. For the rental market, no paper. It's just based on trust. I trust you, you trust me, we can make a deal. So that's the majority of that. But when the migrants arrive in this area, they will begin to more and more use the paper. So it's the contract and written contract. So it's new. When we talk about new, it's like the last 10 years. They start to use paper to formalize. I can use the word formalize to formalize the deal. But before that, it's only based on trust. Is the problem to sell land if it's a district? No, it's not. It's not difficult because many people need land. So if you go to your family, I need to sell land because I have a problem. Many people will raise their hand. I want to buy it because there's a lot of demand. So it's not a problem. So when I was in field, so people, then the children went to the hospital. So the mother said, I will sell my land because I can't afford the doctor and the medicine overstuff. All the member family say, I want to buy it because land sales market is also a kind of insurance. They support each other by buying that. So that's, I don't know if this that's the question. No, but the contract rent land for 2 or more or 4 years. So the deal is, the most of the deal is only for 1 year, 1 season, not 1 year, 1 season. So they can renew the deal for the next year, So it's not like in other countries. For instance, in the Ivory Coast, they make the contract for 10 years and rice cocoa tree or palm tree. The contract is based on rice field, so 1 year. So the most of the time, the landowner rent you this land for this year, but not the same for the next year, because they don't want to let you to grow rice there for 10 years. So they move it to another one, then to another one. But everybody knows that who is the real landowner. Official regulation, the law about land market, we don't have real laws about that. That's only one sentence in very low law. They write it in the 90s. Called you are not allowed to write out land because you exploit the other people. It's not the case. The land rental market is very active across Madagascar, so that's why we have to change the law and to implement a new law which may increase and develop and frame the land rental market to support the people like migrants to more access land.
Thank you. We have time for another round. Are there other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. What are restrictions that landowners place when they rent land? And what kind of land is this? Is it for rice production or is it for groundnut and maize production? Could you clarify those 2 points?
What is the first?
The first point is, what are the restrictions that landowners who own the land place on those who rent the land? And then the second question, this land, is it for rice production or is it for dry upland production?
Okay.
If there are nobody else, I can also come with a couple of questions.
Go ahead, please.
One is, I remember a study by Belmar on mainly rental markets, and I think sharecropping seemed to be quite common and dominating.
Exactly.
Is that the case in your study area also? Is that the kind of dominant contract most of Madagascar? Mm-hmm. Also, I think he mentioned something about reverse tenancy. Mm-hmm. So it was a kind of tendency that poorer households rent out land to wealthier households. So about the equity dimension of your study, that is, I wonder how, it may be more complicated than that, I guess, but if you have some, knowledge on that,
Okay, so I'm going to start with your question. Another one.
Could you say a bit more on the characteristics of the migrants?
Okay.
And whether also the restriction that you mentioned now in the law, whether that plays a role in terms of having this short-term or 1 year rental contract. Whether there is some the restriction that you mentioned on renting out land on in the law, whether that has any effect on the length of the contract.
Okay, so the restriction, I get your point. You want to know if it's like in other country, for instance, you are not allowed to to raise very typical trees here. Okay, so that's
That kind of restriction.
So the rest of the deal is only about rice field. So you grow rice, or maybe you can grow beans or potatoes, but it's only for 1 year. So there's no possibility to grow trees or palm trees or other trees on the passage. This is the only restriction. You can use fertilizer, you can use the seed that you want, but it's rice seed or beans or something like that. This is the restriction, and of course you can sell the land. it's it's obvious. That's the only restriction. But at the same time, the landowner tell to the tenant, you have to get involved to the water management, because you are not on this flood. When the community maintain the canal, manage the water to irrigate all the rice field, you have to get involved and to work with all the community. This is also one the restriction. About sharecropping, yeah, the people of Burma is not people of Burma. They work with a lot of land issue on Madagascar. Sharecropping is very common. Not only in this area, but in my area, it's more about land rental than sharecropping. The structure of sharecropping in my country for the last 20 years, so we share the half, 30% of the years goes to the landowner, and 66% of the days go to the tenant. But for the last 5 or 10 years, half of the years goes to the landowner, 50-50. So for the household who rents land, it's not a good deal. So more and more they move to the land rental market. The rental market provides cash for the landowners, but for the tenants it's the way to manage the risk, and it's more, they gain more to do land rental. Of course, the landowner always try to convince the tenant to go to sharecropping, but they don't accept. So the power is more on the demand side than the supply side. Reverse tenancy. On this area, I did not observe the reverse tenancy case. More of the landowners have. It's not the average size. The average size of land in this area. We can see here the average size, the owned area. It's small. It's the size of the farm. 1.8 hectare for the migrant, 2.2 hectare for the native. So the context is totally different to the context in Brazil with 100 hectare. It's very small. So there is no accumulation of land for the native, also for the rich migrant. So the size of the land owned by two categories is quite the same. That is the first point. The second point is when you see here on the year of the migrant arrived between 2008 and 2018. This one. They are the more active. So this group are more active to buy land. Why this first group? We we can think that they have enough money and enough social capital to buy more and more land. But on the community, there's like the rules. When you have enough land for you or so a family, but it's also very expensive to exploit out the parcel. You say it's enough for me. I let the other also to buy land. So there is no accumulation for this group. And in a real economy, a capitalist economy, this first category will buy all the available land and this spread, but that's not the case. They let also the other people to buy land. The characteristic of migrants. Okay, so the migrants come from several parts of Madagascar. From that picture, my study area is just some here over here. So the migrants come from the highland. This is the island of Madagascar. So there's a lot of high density of population here, and the land is very small in this part of Madagascar. That's why they move from here to here. So migrants from this part, the southern part of Madagascar, with a lot of it's very dry there, so they leave this area to go there. And also in this part, there's a lot of cyclone, impact of cyclones, or a lot of floods every year. So they also leave this to go on the western part. This is the first characteristic. And the most of the migrants are young. It's like between when they arrived and then on this area, they are like 30 to 40 years. So it's not very young, but it's not very old. And the migrants belong also to many ethnic groups. The ethnic group in this part is different. The ethnic group in this part and the ethnic group in this part. So they live together in this area. That's why also they need to trust. That's why trust is very important for land market.
Okay, I think we need to stop there for the next presentation. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think
Maybe there.
yeah.
So it's next study is on China, and urban villages and transformation. I'm not sure also how to pronounce your. Okay. Thank you. That's good. So the floor is yours. I will take up your time.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Yeah. Thank you for joining the session. My name is Liu. I'm from China, but I'm doing a postdoc research at Wageningen University. And this is my supervisor, Nico. Yeah. So. Yeah, it's a very good opportunity to present my research work in the World Bank Land Conference, and very happy to see some familiar faces I met yesterday, and also very glad to see some new faces in this meeting room. So today so the first presenter gave a very nice story talking, but now I will draw your attention from the global south to China. So this study is also based in the urban area. So there's some transitions from the global south and also from rural area to urban area. So my topic is about the urban village regeneration and the migrant preference for the relocation scale. Okay, first of all, I will give you a background introduction. So in China, over the past 40 years, China has witnessed a very rapid process of urbanization. So a large flow of rural migrants are moved into the urban area in the cities for better opportunities for jobs, as well as for the education opportunities. So along with the rural urban migration, And there's also urban sprawl because more people are moving into the cities, and the city need more space to accommodate the increasing population. So the urban villages are one of the outcomes of urbanization in China. So why we say urban villages? Because during the process of urbanization, the urban government, they will get the land, the rural farming land, as well as the resettlement land from the rural communities. But the rural land area, they are easily to transform to the for the urban land use. But for the residential area, like the resettlement area, the settlement areas in the villages, they are very difficult to transform from the rural community to the state-owned land. Because here there's a very complicated property rights involved. Because in rural area and urban area, they have the totally different land system. So in rural areas, the land is owned by the rural community collectively, but the urban land are owned by the states. So here, so urban villages in the settlement area, the land is still collectively owned by the rural community. But the houses, they are because at the beginning they are very small housing units. But the urban villagers want to accommodate more population of the migrants. They build up the high-rise building. For instance, I took a picture from the Shenzhen University, from the municipality of Shenzhen in the south of China. So the urban village housing are partly packed, closely packed, and high rises. So the urban villages are usually regarded as the migrant enclaves. So since 2000, the urban villages has already become the center of urban regeneration policy in China, especially in Shenzhen city. Okay. So why we need the urban village regeneration? So because now the urban area, especially in the meta cities, in the big cities, they do not have enough land to expand. So they are encountering with the restrictions of land resource use. And in order to achieve the urban growth as well as to improve the land use efficiency, the local authorities have the motivation for the urban village regeneration. So usually they want to redevelop the urban village housing, like demolition. Afterwards, they want to rebuild the high-rise, the new buildings. So, but for the urban regeneration, as the literature mentioned, they have both the positive and negative effects are generated by urban village regeneration policies. For instance, they have the positive effects, they have the positive spillover effects on the surrounding area because of the improved living environment, as well as they attract new investments and businesses. However, they also have the negative side. For instance, the urban village regeneration crowd out the poor people who couldn't afford the high cost living. So urban village regeneration is a long process. They have the beginning stage and during the regeneration and afterwards. So here, at the beginning, at the initial stage, they also have the consequences on the affected households. Because the government want to reuse the urban village land use or housing, the first step is to clear the existing buildings. So the population, the household who are living there, the original household has to move out. So over there, there's the forced relocation happened at the beginning of urban village regeneration. So for instance, I did my fieldwork in last year in the Shenzhen urban villages. So here, the Shenzhen government, the municipality government would like to renovate the urban village housing and doing the unified rental housing market. They want to develop the rental housing market by renovating the rural urban village housing. So, but here, because the rural urban village are accommodated a lot of huge number of migrants, as the urban renters, they do not have the rights, they do not have the property rights, but also they are affected a lot because they live in there for work, for life. But all of a sudden, the government would like them to move out within a short time. So here it caused a very strong backlash between the government and the migrants who are living there. So given this background, and we would like to know, so what can we do as an urban planner or decision makers? What can we do from the policy making, from the perspective of policy making? Because for now, in practice, the relocation is forced relocation. The migrants who are affected, usually they do not receive any compensation. They are only forced to relocate within a certain time. So the government do not consider the migrants' interests. That's why they have the conflicts and the backlash occur. But here, through the government authority also want to solve this kind of problem, how to make the urban village regeneration moving forward smoothly. So here, this research focus on the relocation scheme design. So we would like to know the knowledge of migrants or their preference and the need for the urban village regeneration and the relocation schemes. So my research question is what kind of relocation scheme elements are preferred or design are preferred by the migrants who are forced to move during the urban village regeneration. To address this research question, I used the stated choice experiment approach. So we design like the stated choice experiments. So the choice alternatives are the relocation scheme, hypothetical relocation schemes with a list of attributes. So this choice experiment is based on the McFadden's random utility theory, and this approach can elicit the preference and willingness to pay, and it's a widely used methodology in the environmental assessment field, as well as in some health economics. So for the experimental design, first of all, we have to choose between different alternatives, and the alternatives are composed of different attributes and labels. So we use the orthogonal fractional factorial design protocol. For the relocation scheme related attributes, we based on the existing literature and the participatory observations in the field last year, we come up with 5 relocation scheme elements. First of all, the notice period of eviction. This element, why we put it here, because usually the migrants are forced to move within a very short time period. They do not have enough time to prepare or find their alternative living place. So we think maybe the notice period of eviction, if we give them more time to prepare, the migrants will prefer the relocation scheme. In practice, the migrants do not have compensation, even though they do not have the property rights. They cannot get the same compensation as the urban villagers. But it's also reasonable to give a certain of cash compensation for them because they make their life in trouble. So we also set up the compensation as a relocation scheme attribute, but the levels, they are much lower than the urban villagers, the house owners. The third one is the public housing searching platform, whether the public platform for rental housing information is provided. So this attribute is assumed to offer the housing information to help or facilitate the migrants to find an alternative place to live once they move. The fourth one is the migrant children's school rights. Because from our qualitative or participatory observation, we find a lot of migrants are complained or concerning whether or how about their children. They are in the education because the education opportunity is quite competitive and attached to the living place in China. So once they move, the children will lose their education rights. They cannot go to the school. They have to drop out by default, or they have to find another school to register. It's a very long process. So we think this is also a very important scheme attribute. The last one is the rent increase. So rent increase is the most concern in the real life because after they move, they have to find another housing, or they go back to leave the city, go back to their hometown, or find almost other cities. So the rent increase is also a very important attribute. For the choice experiment, since we combine all the attributes and the levels, we design the choice compositions, the choice combinations. So we give two alternatives in each choice occasion, like the choice card. So the second and the third column is the relocation scheme, hypothetical relocation scheme alternatives. And we have 5 attributes. Each relocation scheme has different levels of combination of the attributes, and comprehensively compare these two options, which one is preferred by the respondents. They will make a choice. Okay, so this is the before I introduce the experiment design, here I will talk about the data collection and the survey design. So in collaboration with Nanjing Agricultural University, we designed the Shenzhen Urban Village Tenant Survey last year. So it involved 40 urban villages from, as shown in this figure, the round dot, the green circle are the location of urban villages. So we collected our survey data. So in each urban village, we interviewed 25 to 30 tenants. Here I see the tenants because the migrants are urban renters. So most of the tenants are the migrants without a Shenzhen hukou, but also some migrants, they obtained the Shenzhen hukou after they moved to the city. So the survey is the survey composes of 8 modules, including the basic information, their living arrangement and household composition, as well as their experience, perceptions of urban village regeneration, satisfaction, as well as their choice experiment, choice card session. So the field work was conducted in the summer of last year. So here I will give you present some descriptive summary of the sample characteristics. So as you can say, the gender, like it's 40%, around the 44% of the samples that are male being interviewed, and the average rate are 38 years old. So maybe I can highlight some the local hukou status. Hukou is the special household registration system in China. It attached with a lot of resources or opportunities you can get. So here we found like 10% of the respondents who obtained the Shenzhen local hukou. Yeah. So we also have the variables about the migrants who their household composition, their household income, as well as their employment status. Okay, and to empirically estimate the choice experiment, we use the standard random utility modeling framework mentioned by the introduced by McFadden in 1974. So if we assume each respondent, each tenant has the different preference on the choice. So then we have the beta I. Is usually in the normal logic model or utility model, you have the unified beta for it. So we calculated the same or the average mean of the beta, the coefficient. But here, each respondent has their own coefficient, the beta. So, like the normal logic model, the utility model, we first assume every person has the homogeneous preference. Then the model the probability of migrants choosing relocation scheme on the choice occasion, they can transform to the conditional logic model, like the normal logic model. But for instance, all the beta are equal. But for and then we release the assumption, and every person has the different preference. Then the model will transform to the mixed logic model. So everybody, they can estimate it. This model can be estimated by the random, the simulated maximum likelihood model. Okay, then here is the estimation results for the conditional logic model and the mixed logic model. So so the model 1 is the conditional logic model. We find 4 attributes of 5 are significant. Like we can say the migrants prefer the relocation scheme with a longer notice period of eviction, more higher compensation, and retaining the migrant children's school rights, and with less rent increase after renovation. So the model 2, so the first column of model 2 is the mean estimate of the beta, and ST is the standard deviation. So we got a similar estimate between the two models, but the only difference is the house platform. We got a little bit significant for the random utility model. And the second part of the modeling, we can compare the statistics of McFadden, R-square, and the log likelihood value. So we can say the random utility model is slightly better than the conditional logic model. Okay, so here we got the important from the basic regulation regression. We found some significant elements, the scheme elements, but wasn't the relative importance of each element. To address this issue, we use the dominance analysis and compare the relative importance that affect migrant preference. So here we found the rent increase is the most important relocation scheme that affect migrant choice, and followed by compensation. So as we can see, the economic factors are the most important factors. then the school rights. So the notice period of eviction and housing, whether the housing platform is provided, they have the least important. They are the least important elements. So then I based on the social demographic characteristics of the migrants. I added the interaction term into the basic model. So we can say the region means within the core area. Like I split the Shenzhen municipality into the core urban area and the outside without the outside the core area. So we found the school rights in the outside of the core area are more preferred by the migrants. The migrants who has school children, they are value more about remaining the school rights. Yeah, it's a very straightforward, but it also means our modeling tell the truth. So. So here is some interaction terms by adding the education level of the migrants. We can say the migrants who are highly educated, they value more about the compensation, rent increase, and school rights. Okay, for the welfare analysis, in addition, we also calculated the marginal substitution rate between each attributes. From this figure, we can say we use the rent increase as the basic, as a benchmark. So we can, by comparing the MRS, so we can say the school rights play a very important role, and later followed by the compensation and the notice period of evasion. And the house platform is not significant for the marginal substitution rate. Okay, to conclude, so this research found migrants prefer the relocation scheme with a longer notice period, high cash compensation, and remaining school children, and as well as less rent increase after renovation. So we also found the relative importance between these attributes. The most important is the rent increase, followed by compensation school rise, and the notice period and housing platform is the least important element. So heterogeneous preferences are also identified based on the migrants' social demographic characteristics. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Yeah.
Just one quick clarification.
Yeah.
So, in terms of this renovation, because you picked it up, right? I mean, 20 of the urban villages there. Where are these housing tenants is going to move? Are they moving to the urban area, or are they moving to other urban villages which are not renovated? Put it this way, because that would matter a lot about the results that we talked about.
Yeah. Shall I answer or?
No, we can take
okay.
a few maybe. Yeah.
So in your study, these are all purely migrants. But for the 10%, they have local.
Yeah.
So local hukou means they are urban citizen hukou or rural hukou. But you in your experiment, you don't include them, right?
I do include them.
But you haven't looked at them. You could look at them whether they are willingness to. They probably get compensation very different from the people.
I can explain it. Yeah.
So related to the earlier question, because I find the result that says the notice period doesn't really matter all that much, and so where are they moving, and they're not really concerned about finding a new place to stay, or like, do you have any explanation for that?
I have a follow-up question on that.
Yeah.
So I wonder you don't say much about employment or jobs, or if they have to relocate so far that they lose their job. I would think that would be a concern, but I'm not sure how far they have to move. So.
Okay. Can I answer or?
Yeah, I think.
Okay, all right. So first of all, the destination after renovated where the migrants will move. So they have their own options, so they can find, maybe the migrants who has a job in the cities, they prefer to find another place nearby the urban village, or they move to some other district. There's no regulation on where they are going. But they can, a lot of the small business holders in the urban villages, through the field work I talked with them, many of them choose to go back to their hometown because they cannot find a place to operate their business anymore. And so many people living there, they moved away, they cannot find any customer.
So in terms of that, actually, the relocation also demolished their job rather than just moving their house.
Yeah. For some people who run the small business, they are self-contained, self-employed in the urban villages. They affected their income a lot, dramatically. Okay, for the second one, the local hukou. Maybe here is a little bit confusing about why I'm talking about the migrants. In my sample, I still have the respondents with local hukou. Here we have the different definition about the migrants, and also because our survey is about the tenant survey. So our population, the sample is about the tenants or urban renters in the urban villages. So some tenants, like 90% of tenants, are migrants without a local Shenzhen hukou. But 10% of my sample, they hold the Shenzhen hukou. Because in Shenzhen, the hukou system, as you know, if once you get the highly educated, you get a bachelor degree or above, you can get the local Shenzhen hukou immediately without any conditions. So there are a group of this kind of high-skilled migrants, but they hold the Shenzhen hukou. But they were not born there, and they also moved to Shenzhen and live there.
But they're also tenants.
Yeah. All the samples are tenants. Okay, so for the go back to your question, the notice period doesn't matter much, but they do matter, the notice period of eviction. We found a very significant effect on the choice preference. But for the when you compare the 5 attributes, the relevant importance, they are small. So that's so the migrants may care more about the economic influence, and so they say, okay, as long as I can still afford the house, I can get some money compensation, I'm willing to move within a short time. So the job concerns, as I addressed partially. So a lot of migrants who are run the small business or shops in the urban villages, they are more influenced than the urban renters that only living there without working or jobs or in the urban village. So we try to find some heterogeneous effect between the two groups. Unfortunately, we do not find a very significant heterogeneity here, like the business. Business means the migrants who are running a small business shops in the urban village. But here we do not find a very significant effect.
Okay. So follow-up question or other question?
Comment, yes. So I think in your question answer to Chen, so why don't you just do a willingness to compensate, a willingness to submit relative everything to that, make it a value in terms of percentage, right? You could do that too, right?
The values. So
equivalent, how much money?
So the thing is, for the just experiment design, the rent increase is a percentage, like the increase rate. Yeah, probably I can calculate the average rent they pay, and convert the willingness to pay to the monetary unit. Yeah, good suggestion. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Also, follow up the question related to the school.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand quite clear about the channels through which the school rights and everything. To my knowledge, most of the migrants, or rural migrants in urban areas, they don't get access to the formal, like the urban school, right?
Yeah,
it
depends.
Like some people school.
Yeah.
Except for that school also located within the urban village, demolished and through the renovation. Otherwise, the impact would be very minor.
Yeah. So here, so in Shenzhen, the system is slightly different from Shanghai and Beijing. So in Shenzhen, the migrants, they are eligible to enroll their children in school, in the public school. Yeah, you do not, as a hook, it's not a necessary condition, but after you paid the social security fee for 5 consecutive years, or you have the formal contract, rental contract, you are allowed to register your students, to send your children to the public school.
So if that's the case, then I'm really more surprised about the result that you have, which is the concern is from migrants because they cannot have their kids be enrolled into the local. First, just now what you described, the situation is that they can have access without the living neighborhood.
So for instance, the school, like there are a lot of kindergartens within the urban village. Once they are renovated, they cannot go to the school anymore. The kindergarten will be closed.
It's demolished.
Yeah.
So no there. But you can still get access to other public school or kindergarten.
No, it's not as easy as you think, because every year you have the school has the limited capacity. They already registered. If you want to register another school, you can stay in the queue for the next year. Once the school registration is open, you have to compete with the other households. Yeah, it's not as easy as we think.
Okay, any final comments or questions? Otherwise, I think we say thank you. So, the final presentation, Vietnam, and measurement error and efficiency. Yes, so your name, Cham Huang, may be easier to pronounce correctly. So, where is yours? Ready?
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining this panel. So congrats on the 2 super interesting papers. We're gonna switch gear a little bit and do some theoretical modeling, a little drive. This is part of my dissertation under my advisor Washington, with Klaus and I am from the World Bank. Okay, so consider an economy. I'm sorry, it doesn't work on this screen. Okay, there you go. So consider an economy made up of efficient, productive individuals with heterogeneous total factor productivity. Now, efficient allocation of resources allocates inputs in proportion with the individual's GFP so as to maximize the total output of the economy. So theoretically, we expect that productivity ratios are equalized across individuals in efficient allocation. However, in reality, large differences in productivity are observed across sectors and across establishments within industries. And we also observe that the gaps tend to be larger in poor countries than in rich countries. And so these observations motivate a large literature on misallocation, examining the efficiency of the way that finite resources like land and labor are allocated. Okay. So the early works on misallocation starts in the 90s, and by the late 2000s, works by Rastuccia, Robinson, and Michel and Clenot have established the empirical framework that is often used in discussion of misallocation. And the cause of misallocation is not always clear, but it always involves some form of market imperfections, be it regulations or lack of property rights, market frictions. And an important question is, can we quantify the cost of misallocation? Or the flip side of that is to quantify the potential gains from reallocation. And so the literature has established sort of a routine approach on how to estimate the misallocation gap. And so we start with the production function and then estimate the total factor of productivity from the production residual. And then we use that estimated TFP to calculate the optimal allocation and the corresponding optimal output. And then the misallocation gap is then the gap between the estimated optimal output and the observed output in the data. So the presence of measurement error will present a major challenge to this estimation approach. In the presence of measurement error, the measurement error will be indistinguishable from the TFP, and it will lead to a biased estimate of misallocation size. This is a well-known, yet largely overlooked issue in the literature. Very few studies have directly addressed the impact of measurement error on misallocation. So one of the papers uses extremely detailed data from the manufacturing sector, and in agriculture, Golan and Erdry addresses the measurement error, and they're able to recover the variance of measurement error using a structure of multiple plot data that are operated by the same manager in the same season. And in response to that, Aragon, Rastuccia, and Rudd had a entire paper addressing this approach. And one of their criticisms is that the use of block data actually tends to exacerbate it tends to overstate the impact of measurement error. And so heavily inspired by the approach by Golan and Erdry, this paper will estimate the misallocation gap and then adjust it to account for measurement error, also by recovering the variance of measurement error. This paper will diverge from the Golan and Erdry approach in several different important ways. So first, we're gonna use household level data. What is another thing? The we're gonna use free input production, including intermediate input. It's a diversion from Gauss-Utrecht approach where they only consider 2 inputs. And then importantly, the paper is going to rely on our original key identification assumption. So what are the assumptions in this paper? First of all, we assume classical measurement errors. And not only that, but that they're orthogonal to the true value and to each other. And this is a restrictive assumption, but it is necessary to identify the variance of measurement error, and it was employed by both of the previous papers. Secondly, we assume that farming households are efficient, so the market can distort the allocation of resources, but within each household, we're assuming that they are operating at the frontier and that they're efficient at allocating the resources given their constraint. And then the third assumption that is original to this paper is that we assume that there are minimal changes within a household over time, or little, or an alternative approach is that we assume little variance within the commune in the shadow prices and elasticity and technology and intermediate input use. And by holding the intermediate input use constant, we can then identify the variances of measurement errors in intermediate inputs and output. Okay, so the production function, Y naught, is the observed output, and it's made up of inputs L, N, and M. There are land, labor, and intermediate input. Omega Y is the logarithm of TFP, and then the measurement error is expressed as epsilon Y and epsilon J for measurement error in output and input. So because the measurement error and TFP are indistinguishable within the production residual, if we take the variance of the production residual, we see that the measurement error adds an extra term that doesn't reflect any actual variation in productivity, and that will have implications on misallocation estimation. So let's turn to a social planner's problem. The first order condition requires equalized marginal products of each factor across household, and so larger variation in productivity ratio signifies greater misallocation. So if we look at the observed data, and we see that in the presence of measurement error, the productivity gap will be inflated, and it will falsely imply a higher level of misallocation. The social planner problem will give us the solution for the input share, which will be strictly increasing in households TFP. And then we can then predict the optimal outcome for each household. Using Chancellor's inequality, we can prove that optimal output is overestimated in the presence of measurement error. And not only that, but if we can assume normal distribution for measurement error, then we can actually quantify the bias adjustment. And in order to quantify this expression, then we have to, the next step of the action is to identify the variance of measurement error. So how can we identify and remove the variance of measurement error? We turn to the household problem. this is expressed in logarithm. The left-hand side is the observed output and inputs, factor demand, and then the right-hand side is broken down to in terms of unobservable variables. And so we see that the observed output is measurement error in output plus actual output. And then the observed factor demand is expressed as the sum of measurement error in that input plus the actual output, and then a factor-specific composite term omega, which represents factor-specific productivity and shadow price. Okay, so we take the variances and covariances of these equations. Then we'll have a system of equations where the equations are the variances of the observed output and inputs and the covariances among them. And then the unknowns are variances of actual output and input and covariances among them. But on top of that, we also have variances of measurement error. So we'll always end up with more equations, more unknowns than equations. And what we want to do is we want to identify the variances of measurement error. That would require extra additional assumptions. And since the assumption is going to be data-borne, let's talk a little bit about the data used in this paper. So in this paper, we used the Vietnam Access to Resources Household Survey from the United Nations University or Institute for Development Economics Research. We use household panel data that is representative of the rural population from 12 provinces of Vietnam, and we'll be using 3 rounds of data, 2012, 14, and 16. And then before taking the variances, we're gonna take the deviation from the mean. This will reduce the sources of variation and help with identification. And so there are two approaches that we use. One is to take the deviation from households mean, and the other one is to take deviation from the commune's yearly mean. So here is the mathematical representation of that. Tilde represents the deviation from household mean, and the assumption that there's little within variance in intermediate input use within the 5 years of in the sample translates to the assumption that omega tilde is equal to 0. And this allows for some sort of assumption testing. If the assumption holds, then we'll observe that the covariance between output and land is approximately the same as the covariance between intermediate input and land. And similarly, the covariance between output and labor is going to be the same as the covariance between intermediate input and labor. So here, take a look. That means that we'll be comparing the covariances in green with each other and the covariances in yellow with each other. The bottom here reports the differences, and we'll observe that they are very, very close to 0, lending support to the assumption. And so if we can proceed with the assumption, then it allows for some identification, not all. The assumption allows for identification of variance measurement error in output and intermediate inputs. We are unable to identify measurement error in land and labor. So this is gonna we're not gonna be overly concerned with over adjustment. If anything, we're gonna be under adjustment for measurement error. So here are some results. Report the production function in the top panel, and the bottom panel reports the adjustment. So you can see the measurement error accounts for anywhere between 30% and 45% of the production residual, and the measurement error actually overstates the potential gains from reallocation by 2 to 3-fold, which is a lot. So in conclusion, measurement error could generate a large overestimation of potential allocative efficiency gain. So given the large impact of measurement error, the paper cautions when interpreting the estimates of potential gains from reallocation, especially when the costs of reallocation are often large. So yeah, that's
Thank you. Comments? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Pronunciation is fine. It's very interesting and comprehensive work. I have 2 points, 1 comment, 1 question. The comments here is, do we really call this beverage error or some other things which is specific to agriculture? Now, because I mean, the resource allocation theory actually applies to manufacturing industry. For state replicate a factory in the other place, I mean, with the same efficiency. But agriculture is specific to the location, as well as soil quality, as well as rainfall and many other things. And this comes in actually making this reallocation doesn't happen. Okay, and plus another type of thing is particular type of risk. Right? In many cases, I mean, the high profits or high productivity is really compensated for high risk if you consider about the overcome differences. So my hunch was that I mean, your management error, which is covered particular type of site-specific productivity, which is related to the location as well as a particular risk production itself. So I mean, if I were you, I'd probably be thinking about just self-employment from that perspective. Okay. My second point is that I mean, since you are using a large wide range of data across the country, now for Vietnam, if I'm right, but in the exercise, where is the capital? But you have land, labor, community inputs, but actually capital would be very important. I mean, because I mean, different types of farms with different size, with different types of equipment, capital would be a big deal, affecting the efficiency and thing. If you didn't treat it properly, it would left in the residual part. I don't know how to deal with that.
Other, or you want to respond to this one, or other comments? Yeah, I could also. I think you raised a lot of issues. Of course, farming and production is very complex, and you rely on very many strong assumptions. They are also some listed here. So, still, I guess you illustrate kind of a direction of that some of these reallocation literature kind of haven't taken into account the measurement error. So you illustrate that it's important under these strong assumptions. The issue though could be if you have to relax some of those assumptions, like one of those I'm most skeptical to is this classical measurement error assumption, which I do not think generally holds. So what would be thinking about hard about that one? Which direction would the effect be, or if you have like systematic bias in a way in labor or land or land quality that is not taken into account. How does that push your estimates? I think that could be one way to deal with this, to think about, are you able to go through your equations and think systematically about a chain reaction of certain such effects? Other comments or questions? Otherwise, yeah, you may try to answer some of this.
Big try. Well, thank you for your very good comment suggestion. So this study clearly it likes the type of data that will allow us to observe like what kind of a measurement error or like how it's behaving. So we don't have like GPS and data which would be neat for this type of study. In terms of what is classified as measurement error here, so we did try to include as many variables in the production function as possible. The capital, so one variable in the production function is durable goods, and that includes the machinery or whatever the household.
So it's the
It's not. It's treated as a separate.
but it's not
Production for
In the-
not you.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Good.
another question is that did you ever have a look at, because my understanding is correct, you try to use open type covariance to measure this reallocation effect. So did you ever get a chance to look at the cross-sectional compared to static change or over time change? The point was that will give us some idea about what extent risk, which is a volatile, small changing over time, compared to a cross-sectional. Because cross-sectional, usually people using the variance differences to measure about the resource allocation. But over time, that type of things in the same cycle, there's still coming for that big fluctuation.
I did look at it in the paper. It's
Yeah,
not.
that's right. If you can look at that, that would be interesting.
Yeah. We did look at it, and obviously when
So you have this 3 period of time, 3 like cross-sectional,
yes.
and that's like a consensus data.
Mhm.
So it's a short reference data, but large pattern.
Right. And so to relax the classical measurement error assumption, I honestly didn't spend time thinking about this, but my hunch is that if we can say something about how the measurement error is behaving, because if you just say it's non-classical and then we don't know if it's underestimated, under bias or over bias, that sort of thing, there's nothing that can be said about it. But if we know something about it, maybe we can qualitatively say, if how it's going to affect, what is the impact on this allocation. I doubt that we'll be able to actually quantify.
I think let me just comment. Yeah. So I think so that non-classical measurement error also very relevant in the site productivity literature. People talk a lot about this non-classical, so small farms, they make more measurement error, large farms, and less measurement error. So I think maybe we can look at this literature, get some motivation, see how people quantify in that literature, and then maybe think about measurement error. But it is true, even Gordon Uji, they assume classical because and they only have 2 inputs, land and label. They don't have video. They don't have any capital. That's also a problem if they are JP people, So I don't feel. Yeah, but I think a lot can be done. So also the point you mentioned in Vietnam is very different. So I think both of Han and the chairman here, so they recognize the importance to look at south and north. One is more private property rights, one is more common property rights to begin with. So she didn't actually look at both and found some, just didn't report here.
Good, Lydia.
If I have two questions, but I think you already more or less answered my first question about the difference between the north and south of Vietnam. Because as far as I know, at least 10, 20 years ago, the system of property rights was quite different in those two parts. But you know, northern China, which is China, I think, southern China, which is more private property rights. And I would expect that that would have quite some impact, of course, on TFP and on the Misallocation and so on. So, but perhaps you should take that more into account, I guess, here and this. The other question is that one of my students, one of my PhDs, did some research on Misallocation and what China claimed, and expected that because of this system, land being assigned on the basis of household size, that there would be quite some misallocation. In fact, he hardly found any misallocation, very small. And his main explanation of that is the presence of services, machinery services. He said, well, that's, yeah, the household can render services, and that's helps a lot to improve the total productivity. And so I was wondering whether that's also playing a role in your country as well. Whether there are, because the last 10, 50 years, it has developed very fast in China, this market for services, for machinery services. Is that also playing a role in your country already? Or did you see some markets developing there also?
Yeah, thank you. That's a super interesting observation. Unfortunately, this data set doesn't allow. It doesn't look at, doesn't report machinery services at all. Yeah.
It was what you know
From the learners. Yeah.
Okay.